Hello, and welcome back to Bedtime Stories with Vice Vice Baby, where we will continue War number 6. Chapter 18. Andrei Yefimych walked away to the window and looked out into the open country. It was getting dark, and on the horizon, to the right, a cold crimson moon was mounting upwards. Not far from the hospital fence, not much more than 200 yards away, stood a tall white house shut in by a stone wall. This was the prison. So, this is real life, thought Andrei Yefimych, and he felt frightened. The moon and the prison, and the nails on the fence, and the faraway flames at the bone-charring factory were all terrible. Behind him, there was the sound of a sigh. Andrei Yefimych looked around and saw a man with glittering stars and orders on his breast, who was smiling and slyly winking. And this, too, seemed terrible. Andrei Yefimych assured himself that there was nothing special about the moon or the prison, that even sane persons wear orders, and that everything in time will decay and turn to earth. But he was suddenly overcome with desire. He clutched at the grating with both hands and shook it with all his might. The strong grating did not yield. Then, that it may not be so dreadful, he went to Ivan Dmitrich's bed and sat down. "I have lost heart, my dear fellow," he muttered, trembling and wiping away the cold sweat. "I have lost heart." "You should be philosophical," said Ivan Dmitrich ironically. My God, my God. Yes, yes. You were pleased to say once that there was no philosophy in Russia, but that all people, even the paltriest, talk philosophy. But, the philosophizing of the paltriest does not harm anyone, said Andrei Yefimych, in a tone as if he wanted to cry and complain. Why then, that malignant laugh, my friend, and how can these paltry creatures help philosophizing if they are not satisfied? For an intelligent, educated man, made in God's image, proud and loving freedom, to have no alternative but to be a doctor in a filthy, stupid, wretched little town, and to spend his whole life among bottles, leeches, mustard plasters, quakery, narrowness, vulgarity, oh my God. You are talking nonsense. If you don't like being a doctor, you should have gone in for being a statesman. I could not. I could not do anything. We are weak, my dear friend. I used to be indifferent. I reasoned boldly and soundly, but at the first coarse touch of life upon me, I have lost heart. Prostration. We are weak. We are poor creatures. And you too, my dear friend. You are intelligent, generous. You drew in good impulses with your mother's milk. But you had hardly entered upon life when you were exhausted and fell ill. Weak. Weak. Andrei Yefimych was all the while at the approach of evening tormented by another persistent sensation besides terror and the feeling of resentment. At last, he realized that he was longing for a smoke and for a beer. "I'm going out, my friend," he said. "I will tell them to bring a light. I can't put up with this. I am not equal to it." Andrei Yefimych went to the door and opened it, but at once Nikita jumped up and barred his way. "Where are you going? You can't, he said. "It's bedtime." "But I'm only going out for a minute to walk around the yard," said Andrei Yefimych. You can't. It's forbidden. You know that yourself." "But what difference will it make to anyone if I do go out?" asked Andrei Yefimych, shrugging his shoulders. "I don't understand. Nikita, I must go out," he said in a trembling voice. "I must." "Don't be disorderly. It's not right," Nikita said. "This is beyond Everything, Ivan Dmitrich cried suddenly, and he jumped up. What right has he not to let you out? How dare they keep us here? I believe it is clearly laid down in the law that no one can be deprived of freedom without trial. It's an outrage. It's tyranny. Of course it's tyranny, said Andrei Yefimych, encouraged by Ivan Dmitrich's outburst. I must go out. I want to. He has no right. Open, I tell you. Do you hear, you dull-witted brute? Cried Ivan Dmitrich, and he banged on the door with his fist. Open the door, I'll break it open, torturer! Open the door, cried Andrei Yefimych, trembling all over. I insist. Talk away, Nikita answered through the door. Talk away. Anyhow, go and call Yevgeny Fyodorich. Say that I beg him to come for a minute. His honor will come out of himself tomorrow. They will never let us out, Ivan Dmitrich was going on meanwhile. They will leave us to rot here. Oh Lord, can there really be no hell in the next world? And will these wretches be forgiven? Where is justice? Open the door, you wretch! I am choking! He cried in a hoarse voice, and flung himself upon the door. I'll dash out my brains! Murderers! Nikita opened the door quickly, and roughly, with both his hands and his knee, shoved Andrei Yefimych back, then swung his arm and punched him in the face with his fist. It seemed to Andrei Yefimych as though a huge salt wave enveloped him from his head downwards and dragged him to the bed. There really was a salt taste in his mouth. Most likely the blood was running from his teeth. He waved his arm as though he were trying to swim out, and clutched at a bedstead. And at the same time, he felt Nikita hit him twice on the back. Ivan Dmitrich gave a loud scream. He must have been beaten too. Then all was still. The faint moonlight came through the gratings, and a shadow, like a net, lay on the floor. It was terrible. Andrei Yefimych lay and held his breath. He was expecting with horror to be struck again. He felt as though someone had taken a sickle, thrust it into him, and turned it round several times in his breast and bowels. He bit the pillow from pain and clenched his teeth. And all at once, through the chaos in his brain, there flashed a terrible, unbearable thought that these people, who seemed now like black shadows in the moonlight, had to endure such pain day by day for years. How could it happen that for more than 20 years he had not known it, and had refused to know it? He knew nothing of pain, had no conception of it, so he was not to blame. But his conscience, as exorable and as rough as Nikita, made him turn cold from the crown of his head to his heels. He leapt up, tried to cry out with all his might, and to run his haste to kill Nikita, and then Hobotov, the superintendent, and the assistant, and then himself. But no sound came from his chest, and his legs would not obey him. Gasping for breath, he tore at the dressing gown and the shirt on his breast, rent them, and fell senseless on the bed. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Bedtime Stories with Vice Baby. I hope you all have a good night and sweet dreams.